myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Very little to talk about on a Thursday night with Supermac and Gibbo. But first, Malcolm and I would just like to address a certain result at the weekend with a Mr. Gibson, because Malcolm and I both predicted, not once, but twice in the Dog and Parrot as well, that Newcastle United would get a draw against Manchester City. And we were ridiculed by Mr. Gibson.
May I cut you off here and say there's no need for the two of you to apologise for getting the score wrong, saying it would be 2-2 when it was 3-3. I accept that nobody's perfect, so that was fine. That's okay by me.
John.
I tell you what, I've never been so thrilled to be wrong in all my life, because not only was it deserved, it was absolutely startling. If I've seen a better match in recent times, it's very hard to think about. And when I watched Newcastle play Arsenal, apart from the result, that was a win.
Yeah, John,
I thought I wouldn't see a better game, and that was a better game.
Right, and yeah, there was a snigger though, wasn't there, Steve?
There was.
When we said to each, both of us. Yes,
there
was a snigger.
There was a totally another snigger.
I backed it up with the bookies though, Malcolm. I went to the bookies and put me money on.
Oh, ye of little faith, John Gibson.
Well, I mean, I knew you'd got the score wrong, you see.
I went to the bookies and put me money on 2-2, and me and Malcolm at the Dog and Parrot, where you can find us pre-match and post-match, every home game, both backed up what we said on the Thursday, and we even gave John Gibson a mention in dispatches when we were live on stage, and when we came back, believe you me, John, we didn't hold back. We did make sure that we said John Gibson will be getting it.
He did apologise for getting the score wrong, but I think it
no
was
need
a
to do that
effort on your behalf, and I hope that you're going to be right for the rest of the season, mind. Otherwise, I should be extracting the Michelle at various times in the future. No, John, but honestly, it was well pleased. I've never been so flabbergasted, because I was expecting by two things: how good we are and how ruffled they became by us. It was a wonderful result.
Yes, it was. I was sort of racking my brains afterwards as I was going home, thinking, you know, when have I last seen such a performance by a Newcastle United side? And I finished up going all the way back to Juventus in Europe, and there was a match against Barcelona as well, John, I believe.
Yes, when Newcastle beat Barcelona 3-2.
Yes,
and Trippier scored a hat-trick.
That's it.
I think you're right. I mean, I said, and you were sitting with me at this game, I'm mentioning Arsenal, we were absolutely superb. And the only difference was we won, but Arsenal aren't as good as Man City. But that was a superb display. Two of our last three displays, you know, guys, at home in the Premier League, Arsenal 2-0 and Man City 3-3. The gap is closed hugely, and we have shown we can live with the best. For goodness sake, only last season we lost 4-0 and 5-0 against Man City. And here we were 3-3, and they were pleased to get a draw. We've got to transfer that to away form and step up our away performances to get. They're never going to be as good as home. They're not for any side. But we've got that to do. But we're closing ground rapidly. And my hope is that the latest situation in the transfer market right now, and what might also come before September the 1st, will help us to close that gap significantly.
Somebody said, I hope you're not singing tonight, Steve, with them to the 3 degree. Now, last night I did a show with Ben Jacobs, lads.
Yes.
Do you both know the band ABBA?
I do.
Okay. Have you heard the song Gimme, Gimme, Gimme a Man After Midnight?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, well, this is going to lead us into our next segment, which, of course, is about our imminent new record signing. Isak,
a Swedish person.
Well, we say Isaac, but Mozza in our chat says Isak.
It is Isak. Yes.
Isak. Okay. So Tom Dixon has sent in the song once again, I guess for me and you and Malcolm to sing, John. Gimme, gimme a striker from Sweden. He's our number 14 and he plays in attack. Gimme a striker from Sweden. First name's Alexander and his surname's Isak.
Now, I don't think that it goes somehow, but
well, I don't think
the
with the
transport
Abba
does.
somehow. I mean, that's the first thing I've got to say.
The problem is, I think you have to finish with Isaac, and Ben Jacob said you have to finish with Isaac, lads, rather than Isak. Isaac, his surname's Isaac.
I think Isaac goes more with the way that's worded, but I mean, I'm quite happy to call him Mr. Wonderful if he does the job he's being paid for, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'll not call him Isak or Isaac, I'll just call him Mr. Wonderful.
Where do we stand, Malcolm? You wore the number 9 with aplomb. You're quite rightly a Newcastle United legend. From our perspective, we have been crying out for somebody else to play alongside, play instead of Callum Wilson. We know that Newcastle United's ideas have always been around bringing in a youngster who can develop in the Premier League. But this guy's got a bit of pedigree about him, even though he's 22, Swedish international. What's your thoughts as he passes his medical in the next few hours and then puts pen to paper on being the biggest signing in Newcastle United's history?
Yeah, fee-wise, certainly. This guy seems to have it all, have everything. He's got height, he's got build, he's got pace, speed, he's got superb ball control, and he certainly knows where the goal is. But just watching him on the ball for a big lad, because I think he's about 6'3", if I'm not mistaken, but he has got beautiful, tight control. He can have 2-3 opponents all around him, and he just goes with it and keeps the ball very tight to his bootlaces, and finishes very, very well indeed. He looks so calm in the opposing box. I'm really excited on this, you know, and I was even asked today that was I worried about my place in the scoring list for Newcastle.
Good God, the guy hasn't passed his medical yet.
I know. He's got a very long way to go, but by heavens, he's going to be a threat to a lot of records. He really is. And I think it's a great signing by Newcastle. And I don't say that very often, that's for sure. In fact, I forgot how to say it for the last 15 years. But this guy is something else.
John, there's been a lot of negativity from certain quarters on social media. Thank the Lord for you. You're not on there. But me and Malcolm have to deal with that, and we see it on a regular basis. But you know what? Newcastle United, again, just stage left without anybody who's been linked with Newcastle on a regular basis, suddenly doing business with a name that hasn't been in the newspapers. I think that tells us two things. These people who we've got at the club now know exactly what they're doing and are very professional at going about their business. But secondly, it also tells us that the person who was in the dressing room or in the club, whichever, who was leaking the information is now safely departed.
Yeah, I mean, to be truthful, I'm absolutely delighted about the developments in the last 48 hours. I was getting very concerned because we were getting closer and closer to September the 1st, and I felt, and we've said it, all three of us, many times on this program, please do not let the transfer window close without us getting a centre forward. Now, what has particularly pleased me about this signing is that we have gone back to our original target. We haven't bought second-class centre-forward or a third-class centre-forward or a fourth-choice centre-forward. We've gone back and got our original number one choice, and for big, big bucks. I think what's constant, so people say, well, what's changed our mind? Why didn't we do it originally? I think what has concentrated minds up there is the fact that Callum Wilson has only 3 games into a new season had to have yet another scan on a hamstring. Eddie Howe adores Callum Wilson. I adore Callum Wilson. I've said a fit Callum Wilson can be one of the most memorable centre forwards just beneath the sphere that Malcolm and Alan Shearer and Ward Jackie and everybody held. But we know that he can't do that. He can't stay fit. And it's a sadness. And I think Newcastle wanted to believe he could. Certainly Eddie Howe wanted to believe he could. He loved him at Bournemouth. He loves him up here. We all love him. But the realisation, you only get 3 games out of him before he's in trouble again. Now, it doesn't matter whether he's out this time for 2 games or whether he's out for 6 weeks. He is out again. And we know he will be out again before the end of this season. It is concentrated minds. Thankfully, if there's anything good come out about Callum's hamstring, is that it's come with about 10 days, or it came with about 10 days of the transfer window still open, and not on the first match in September when we couldn't do something about it. And I think Newcastle's very shrewd guys in there, from the board to Dan Ashworth to Steve Nixon to Eddie Howe, sat down and said, hey, we've got to face facts. Callum, even in cotton wool, isn't going to be there all the time. We're going to do something very positive about this. And they've gone back and said, you know what? I mean, they flew out Nixon and Ashworth straight away. No messing about. No, they flew out to Spain to conclude the deal.
Yes.
And they've done exceptionally well. We've pushed the boat out. I mean, think about it, guys. You look at the price. People were saying, oh, Newcastle being skinflints, all the nonsense, etc., 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 simply because we don't want to pay over the odds for players who aren't worth a particular amount of money. But this fella, if it's like 58 mil to start with, building up to 63 mil. Now, that doesn't just blow us, our record, out of the window. The 2 summer signings, centre-forward signings that have been absolutely sensational, it beaten them cash-wise. Haaland, who went to Man City, was only 54 million. Jesus, that went to Arsenal, 45 million. We have topped the figure that they commanded, the 2 people as good as that commanded. Yes, it's not the figure that is the Premier League record, because that's 100 million for Jack Grealish, and I hope our fella does better than Grealish, because he's done nout.
Can't even get in the squad.
Oh, and the second biggest signing in the history is Lukaku, who's now been thrown out back abroad. The third one was Pogba, who was absolutely hopeless at the end of Manchester United. And the fourth one is Harry Maguire, who's just been dropped by Manchester United. So they're the top 4 signings in the history of the Premier League. Our lad may well be better than them. I've got great hope for this guy. I think he's only 23
22.
Next month in September.
23 next month, yeah.
He's got 37 Swedish caps. He was a star in his own country at 16 years of age. He's got all the skills in the world. He's 6'4", so he is a big signing, literally.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a very big signing.
And at 22, John, this is his 4th country he's due to play in.
Oh, because he was a star in his own country at 16, Malcolm.
At 16, and then he went to Germany.
Correct.
Then on to Spain, and now
here.
And now he's in England.
And
that is some experience for a young man of 22.
No question at all about it. No question at all. And I think Way fits in perfectly, guys, to the Eddie Howe blueprint of what Newcastle United have all got to be all about, and what the squad's got to be all about, is that he fits two roles. He is actually a centre forward that can play with Callum Wilson. And the reason he can play with Callum Wilson is that you don't go with two up top flat in the way we did with Malcolm and John, etc., etc. This guy can play through the middle centre forward when Callum Wilson's out injured, which is going to be now. And then if Callum Wilson comes back and wants to go in there, he drifts right and left. So he can take either the Almiron or the St. Maximum position, but be more narrow than them, and playing the side alongside,
much more direct,
and playing the side alongside Wilson. Style-wise, and I know he's been Ibrahimovic is the one he's always been sort of the second coming, because they're both Swedes and tall, etc., etc. But the way he plays, his languid sort of style, there's comfort on the ball, the way he likes to drift left or right and not just through the middle, is a Thierry Henry sort of player. So, and good God, if he can be as good as him, we'll be happy. But therefore, he can play in place of Wilson when Wilson's injured, and he can play with Wilson because he's not just an orthodox through the middle battering ram. He can play with him when Wilson's fit enough to be in the side, and he's only 22. So, but I mean, I heard somebody say, well, he's 22, he can grow into top football and he can learn from Wilson. And learn from Wilson. He's got 37 caps. He's a £60 million centre forward. He doesn't have to learn from anybody. He's the real deal, this guy.
Yes.
He's the real deal. I am absolutely delighted to welcome the guy coming here. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, really excited.
This is a statement of intent that we've been waiting for.
Yes, but also,
and by the way, it's amazing to say that, but if he's turned out to be half as good as Trippier and Bruno, two of the signings under the new regime, we'll be well happy. Because I'll tell you one thing, guys, and I'm going off at a tangent here, but just for one sentence, we are in the next round of the League Cup because of Kieran Trippier. Did he make the difference or not when he come on against Tranmere? I mean, we're doing okay. He come on, and his delivery on the two goals, his vision, he just took the game to a different level.
Absolutely.
Go on, Mal.
Well, I really feel with this guy, this is an absolute statement, and the fact is that they've kept it absolutely secret.
Yep.
And I so admire how not a word has got out until the deal has been agreed. And that's the way to really do business. And you mentioned the mole that's been in the camp at Newcastle, no longer there.
Yeah, you're right. We lost you there, Mal, just in full pump. But you're right. We lost the mole, and that is either the mole's gone or the hole's been filled in. Whatever's happened, it's a very, very important thing to happen in our football club, because it means Newcastle can get on and do the job that they want to do. And you're quite right. We've got people now in place to do the jobs, and people on social media were having a pop at the likes of me, Dad, and Amanda, saying, well, what do these know about football, etc. Some people in the football world were having a go, but they've now got Dan Ashworth and Darren Eales in position. Darren started his work on the 22nd of August, and straight away things are starting to happen. And lots of people in the chat saying Trippier has been the catalyst. He has been, Gibbo, like the Barry Venison. We needed a Brian Kilcline. We needed a Barry Venison under Keegan and Sir John. And Kieran Trippier is that player, isn't he? He's the first person who committed to the cause. And you just mentioned him as somebody who last night single-handedly turned a cup tie, which in the past 15 years we would have lost. we would have gone out to Tranmere. It would have been what Sky were looking for, that proverbial cup tie, banana skin. Newcastle, the big guns out at the first time of asking.
That's why we were on telly to
That's
see.
why we were on telly. And he came on last night. Sorry to say Kraft got injured. Let's hope it's not too serious. But you know what? Trippier came on and changed things. And we're a different beast now, John.
As I said, the whole match changed with the introduction of Trippier. We didn't want that because of safeguarding him to be fit, etc., for Wolves and Liverpool. We were forced into it. The game wasn't going well. Wasn't going too well. It wasn't going disastrously, but it wasn't going too well. So you don't bring Manquillo on, you bring Trippier because there was a need to put class in there. His delivery of the ball, he was a different class. I think he's twice a player, by the way, that Barry Venison is, but I think
you get where I'm coming from.
Absolutely, totally. I got the point where you're coming from. Absolutely, totally. I'll say one thing, if I may, about last night and Trippier's input. First and foremost, the minute you play a League Two side in a knockout cup competition, you expect a physical challenge, because the only chance they've got is that if they get amongst you and they scatter a few feathers, etc., etc. Because if they try to match you skill for skill, they're going to get murdered.
And that number 10 was doing just that, John.
I expect them to do that. But for me, Tranmere, and it's just my opinion, were an absolute disgrace the way they went about the game. Kraft was carried off on a stretcher. Lascelles had his nose smashed in the first half by an elbow right across his face, which smashed his nose, and goodness knows how he kept going as long as he did. And Darlow was almost decapitated by a kid called Hemmings, who ought to have got a red card and only got a yellow card. They were an absolute disgrace the way they went about it physically. And at one stage, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because at one stage, you might recall, I'm watching Trippier, and one of their guys stood and stamped on his foot, exactly where his metatarsal had gone last season. And he sat on the ground on the same way, holding his boot, etc., etc. And I thought, oh, dear me, no. We've lost Kraft. Lascelles has got a smashed note. Darlow's lucky to be walking. And the most important guy of the lot, Trippier, his metatarsal might have gone again. And thankfully, it hadn't, and that was okay. But I thought Tranmere last night were absolutely shocking. Physically, were absolutely shocking.
Yes, John, but that's the way that they chose to play. Second division side, 3 levels below a Premiership side. The referee has got to take a responsibility for allowing all of that to happen and not stamping down on it. I thought the display from that referee was one of the most naive and dangerous that I've ever seen. He just allowed everything to go on, and it was almost as if he treated every injury as an accident.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of purposeful.
He was awful. He was absolutely awful. I mean, the yellow card instead of a red. There was nothing happened at all about Lascelles, who rushed up to him and showed him his elbow, said, look, and you've just got to look at his face. But I'm he was an absolute and utter disgrace, not have stamped on it. Was he scared because it's a small club? It's the reason the cameras are there. It's all their fans. I don't know. But also, I'm having a pop also at Tranmere. You can be physical in the way that you confront people without putting people's careers at risk. And believe you me, Darlow was lucky to be able to complete the match, etc. He could have been cut in half by the studs up. And even the guys on the touchline, like John Aldridge, who, bless him, is a lovely scouser and he played for Tranmere, had to admit, oh dear, that was really a red card tackle. Even he, with all the biasness of being an ex-Tranmere player, come out and said, oh, that isn't on. That was awful, and it was awful. I think Tranmere went about the game disgracefully, and the referee allowed them to. And we got out with a bad injury to Kraft, a broken nose to Lascelles, Darlow could have been on crutches, and I was worried about Trippier. We got out of it and we got through, and that was great. But I was very, very disappointed in Tranmere.
Yeah, me too. Listen, it was a typical performance from a non-league, like a lower league club, sorry. And Mickey Mellons did surprise me. I saw Rachel make the comment up there in the chat. Mellon was ridiculous in his post-match interview. Was he watching the same game as the rest of us? Mickey Mellon, Mickey Mouse, more like. Yeah, it was a bit weird, Rachel. I've got to be honest. But this is what happens sometimes. You put a camera and a microphone in front of people after a game. Sometimes you don't get, you don't get common sense. It's why I tend not to, put stuff out on social media after a game, because sometimes, the emotion does get to you, especially if you're a manager or a player. Thanks to the sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors, 304 Old Durham Road, Gateshead is where you can find them, or by calling 0191 478 2730, or visiting the website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.gohd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces. They are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to Away Day Clothing and to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And thanks to cutexshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up under the video, which is free. It costs nothing and helps us a lot. And click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to post a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Goes up 24 hours after the show has finished on YouTube. And if you want to become a member, you can click join or go to nufcmatters.com and join membership, or put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you straight there. You can get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card and entry into the monthly draw if you do it that way. Don't forget, you can get a free car sticker if you subscribe to the show. Just email John at nufcmatters.com and he will send you one out. We also support the food bank on here. If you want to make a virtual donation, then go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you can make a virtual donation to the Matchday Bucket. Peter Beardsley Soccer School is still running throughout the rest of August. For more information on that, go to info@peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Okay, back in with the chat. We did have a few questions that came up. Mad Mark, a couple of points as well, said swapping Dwight Gale out of our strike force for Alexander Isak this summer is one hell of an upgrade. The ownership have certainly delivered. Eamon, good evening. He says, lads, do you think we could be a real threat at set pieces this season with the hype we have in our team now, Malcolm?
Yeah, quite possibly. Absolutely. We're going to have certainly at least 3 6'3" plus. Yeah, that is a threat, a serious threat for a defending side to take care of. And plus the fact that it's as long as they can get ahead to it and knock it down. We've got quick guys now who are sniffing around for any knockdowns. And so, yes, we can be a threat at set pieces without any problems. And also, we have, of course, Trippier. Sides will be scared stiff to foul Newcastle players on the edge of the box. They will be scared stiff. They will be so frightened of the ability of Trippier to be able just to curl it into the top corner this side, the top corner the other side. And he's doing it so consistently, that you can imagine in the team talk prior to playing Newcastle, that the manager and the coach will be there saying, do not foul on the edge of the box. And when a defender is told that kind of order, it makes him very nervous indeed. Do I get tight? Do I defend properly? And no, the question marks in their head from their own manager and coach for fear of giving away a free kick. And therefore, the forwards can make the most of that bit of extra space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the situation with our recent signings, our signings this year, i.e. January in this window, we've got Byrne, followed by Botman, followed by Isak.
Isak.
I mean, 3 guys, Gray's Monument has got to look up to them. Gray's Monument are looking up to these guys. They're the tallest guys I've ever seen. Have you got to play for Harlem Globetrotters before you can sign for Newcastle United now?
Right, but the thing is, though, John, that they've all got a lot of skill on the ground.
Yes.
It's not as if that with their height that they're heading specialists and that they struggle a bit on the ground. They're very athletic. They don't struggle on the turn. They're not going to get caught out like a lot of sort of 6 foot plus defenders used to find was their problem.
Poor old Ryan Fraser is going to have a stiff neck looking up to these 3 guys, isn't he?
Hey, if he's in the side, John, all we need are the right crosses from him, from Almiron, from St. Maximin.
Yes, absolutely right.
And with Isak, he thrives on the ball just being belted into the box. Smash it in. And let him do the rest. And it's going to be exciting.
It is 100%. And it is exciting times. Talk about goings, guys. Dubravka, the story came out last night. Potentially could be on his way to Manchester United. Nothing concrete in that, Mal. Surprising that he would consider going to Manchester United.
No, I'm not surprised. No, I'm not surprised. I think that he's looking at a situation where a keeper has come in who is going to leave him sitting on the bench for a long while. I think also that he has got he's going to have pressure from other keepers in the club and from the lad that played last night. And also, I know I've said this before, but it's well worth saying again. He is not the same keeper, not anywhere near the same standard as he was prior to that international match where he chucked 5 in. He looks nervy and shaky to me all of the time. And so, I think it would be probably in his interest to move on. And De Gea at Manchester United, well, he's been having a shocking year and a half. He's not been doing the business whatsoever. And who knows, he might fancy getting into the Manchester United side easier than he'll get into the Newcastle first team.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand from his point of view. The first reaction would be from any fan or anybody else, all he's doing is swapping up, sitting on the bench at Newcastle, just sitting on the bench at Manchester United, because Henderson had to leave Manchester United when he thought he was going to take over from De Gea, because he didn't, and he's gone off to Nottingham Forest, etc., etc. He's swapping one bench for another. But the 2 significant things he'll probably get if he goes, and he hasn't gone yet, but if he goes, he'll probably get a very significant pay rise, because Manchester United throw money about silly, like confetti, but without knowing what they're getting or who they're getting, or it doesn't matter. That is their way of signing people. And it's on his CV when he's finished playing and he's back in Slovakia and everything. He can say, I played for Newcastle United, Manchester United. Sounds good. Whatever we think of the current Manchester United, the name abroad is still Manchester United. The same as Barcelona even though now they haven't got two pennies to rub together, but still spend a fortune on signing players. How they do that with fair play is another matter, but that's a discussion for another day. That's, I think, it's what it might be about for him. There's certainly a situation at Newcastle where by September the 1st, which is only Thursday of next week, it's 1 week tonight, we're almost there, Newcastle United do not need both Dubravka and Darlow as backup keepers. Because that would, when you think Gillespie's there, who is going to be the last choice keeper, without a shadow of a doubt, they don't need both the goalkeepers. Now, if Dubravka is going to be the number 2 to Pope, and I've said from day one, Pope will be number 1. He was never going to come here if he wasn't going to be number 1 in World Cup year from Burnley. The first thing you ask before you walk through the door and say, how many pound notes am I going to get, is that I'm going to keep goal, because you don't leave otherwise. And so that was as obvious, that's obvious to a blind man. But having said that, then you've got to get rid of one of your goalkeepers. If we keep Dubravka, you have to sell Darlow before next Thursday. If Dubravka goes, Darlow's the backup keeper, and we're fine. So if he does go, I say, God bless him. Thanks very much. You've been a very loyal servant to Newcastle. You've done terrific for us in the past. He would go with my best wishes, because he's been, it's not him wanting to walk away and leave Newcastle in a bad situation, which would have been the case in the Steve Bruce days when he was our number 1 and we weren't going to buy a keeper. That would have dropped us in it. Him going now would not drop us in it. So I would say, thanks for what you've done for us, Martin. You've been a star in the past. Enjoy the rest of your career, mate. We're on to 33-year-old now. So he would go with my best wishes and my thanks, because he's been a good servant to Newcastle. So I don't, it's not a matter of walking out on Newcastle for something better, because he's not going into Manchester United first team automatically. He would go with my best wishes.
Sure, and we're being asked, who are the better of the other keepers other than Nick Pope? And John, you and I have always disagreed on this. You have always said Dubravka, whereas I go for the other guy. I thought it was incredibly unfair in the way that he was just left out. Dubravka came back in once he was fit, and I thought it was quite shocking on Darlow, who I thought had been playing really well.
I mean, I think you're talking about a number 2 goalkeeper here, and unless your number 1 goalkeeper is as fragile physically as Callum Wilson, he's not going to get many shouts, and Pope's going to be number 1. And therefore, it's a flick of a coin between Dubravka and Darlow. You're not reducing the stature too much by taking Darlow, however much you think Dubravka and Darlow, wherever it is, one better than the other. You're not, if we were going where the number 2 goalkeeper was going to be Gillespie, with total respect to the young man, then you would be taking a significant drop. I don't think you are here in this current situation. And if Dubravka stays, then it's in Darlow's interest to go. One of them really has to go before September the 1st.
Yeah, I would agree.
Steve, but Steve Harper, when I talk with him, I think that he has really deep regrets in staying on at Newcastle for the whole of his career, pretty much, as number 2.
Oh, it's one of the great shames. And I think you're right. I'm not certain that he would ever admit it publicly, Stephen, because
I don't think he
Newcastle
would.
United, etc., etc. But he, in about 20 years, he made only 100 and odd appearances for Newcastle. For goodness sake, what a waste of a goalkeeper he was in terms of matches played. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, at one time, he was actually challenging Shea Given, who's one of the greatest goalkeepers in Newcastle United's history. He was actually challenging him for the first team position. And if you remember, in at the end of the 90s, he was actually put in goal ahead of Shea Gibbon for one of the 2 cup finals. It was a great shame with Steve because he deserved so much more than that. With hindsight, I think deep down inside he would know that that was a bad decision on his behalf. So yes, in both these goalkeepers, Dubravka and Darlow, are at this stage in life, although goalkeepers go on longer than outfield players, where there's not a lot left for them. And Pope, if he stays fit, will be Newcastle's goalkeeper in the foreseeable future. So you're talking about playing in the League Cup and the FA Cup early rounds and filling in when there's an injury, and that is your future. So in a wonderful world, I would say Dubravka is the best of the other 2. Mal would say Darlow, but you can't always keep the best if you're only offering them backup. If you only offer backup instead of first team, difficult to keep them. And we're not going to lose too much, but you can't keep the 3. You can't go through the season with Pope, Dubravka, and Darlow. From their point of view, you can't do that. So somebody's got to go.
Yes. Yeah, and we knew that. I just want to read this quote out. Tune 2020 put a little bit up on the chat earlier, but I just sourced the quote from a legend in Swedish football.
A legend?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He said, Isak called me when Newcastle were interested. I told them that they were the sleeping giants and he could be the one to wake them. He has the heart of a lion. Soon they won't talk about Zlatan and Henrik as the greatest Swedes, but instead Isak. I like it.
Oh, this was in 2020.
No, this was a guy in the chat called Toon 2020.
Toon 20. Sorry, I thought you.
I think.
So it's just a recent comment from.
Very nice from Abramovich.
I think it's absolutely terrific. He is the Tyson Fury of football, isn't he? He comes out with great quotes. The guy. And that's a typical one. It's wonderful. I hope it's right. You know what? When Newcastle are involved, because of my years of being battered on the top of the head by lack of success, I always get concerned. You know, and I'm thinking, I hope we're not building this guy up to set him up for a fall because we're so relieved and we're so pleased and we're so to get him. But I don't think we are. I am delighted. He's in town. Lovely jubbly. When he has a look at this town, he's not going to go anywhere. Get yourself out to Northumberland and see the coastline and see the rest of Northumberland. You won't want to go to Sweden. You won't want to stay in Spain. You certainly won't want to go back to Germany. This is the place. He will discover this is God's own country. Come here, my old friend. Be a centre forward here, and you've got a real chance in life to be something extra special. Let's hope he is, because I tell you what, I am sick of recent years taking out Mr. Shearer. I am sick of having average centre forwards. We might have a proper one here. Wouldn't that be nice? John. That would make a nice change, because we used to have proper ones a lot. We've had a few duffers in our time since the proper ones. And let's hope this guy is going to elevate us back. I mean, what he doesn't realise until he gets here is the number 9 Legends Club. He can actually join that. Forget about whether number 9's on his back. This season it isn't, because it's on Callum's back. But he can actually join the centre forward Legends. He can actually, there's a position up there for him, and he doesn't know yet, but he'll know very shortly what that would mean. And I'm not saying he's going to, but the opportunity is there. He has got to improve on a couple of things. His goal scoring record last season wasn't good in La Liga, but that happens with a guy that's coming through, and he had a couple of injuries and he hit single figures. But he is much better than that. His talent is phenomenal, and he's an all-round centre forward. You know, Callum Wilson is a centre forward who was terrific around the penalty area, which is where centre forwards live and die. He's terrific around the penalty area. He's not necessarily the greatest in open play. This guy can play in open play as well as around the penalty area. And that is lovely. You know, Thierry Henry was a centre forward that can play in open play. What I mean, and you know, Malcolm, is outside the box and out wide on both flanks and between the edge of the box and the halfway line, almost be a player of midfield ability as well as a striker. Yeah. And this guy can play like that as opposed.
Yes,
and
he can.
Callum Wilson, as wonderful as Callum Wilson is, and I adore what he is a terrific in the box player. He'll make runs but he's not a silky player outside the box. And this guy has that possibility, no higher than that, but he's got the possibility like Thierry Henry had, like Ibrahimovic had, to be a player outside the box as well as inside the box.
Oh yeah, he's got all sorts of skills to his name. He really has, and just, you know, since I heard his name, I've sort of gone right the way through YouTube, and boy, he is impressive in all sorts of ways. His game is very expansive.
Yes,
you know, where Callum Wilson is narrow to the penalty area.
Yes,
this lad, his whole game is very expansive.
He can go wide and look a good player wide, Malcolm.
Yes, and you mentioned Thierry Henry, who was,
was great at
remember, you know, that he'd be out on the left wing and all of a sudden was sticking the ball in the net.
Yes, absolutely.
And this lad could be quite similar to that.
Okay, Tom Dixon says, Malcolm and John, do you think we'll get a midfielder in, and who would you like in if you were Eddie Howe? I mean, from my perspective, I have said this since January, I want to see James Maddison at Newcastle United. I understand why people say Paqueta, you know, and he is an established Brazilian international who West Ham certainly got, their eyes on as well, but James Maddison, for me, in January, was the one player that I would love to see at Newcastle. And Newcastle have bid, not once, but twice for him. Will they go back in for a third bid, Malcolm?
They may well. But I don't think that Leicester are going to play the game at all. I really don't. I think that they are doing everything that they can. They're in a hell of a state at the moment. And the one thing they don't need to lose is their best midfield player, and that would lower the level of their side dramatically. And I really don't think that it will happen. But I would be more than happy to see Paqueta come in without Paqueta from Lille, and fellow Brazilian. To Bruno, and they know each other. They've played together, and and I've seen them doing some fabulous stuff together. And so why not bring it to Newcastle?
John, your thoughts on the central midfield role? We brought Bruno in. I think the whole Paqueta thing was in Newcastle United's minds before they brought Bruno in. They decided to go for Bruno with regards to Paqueta. I think a lot of it's been because of the friendship that he's got with our mercurial midfielder. I think Newcastle have always been looking elsewhere, and Maddison seems to be the main focal point.
I mean, I went on this program, as you know, Steve, just a little while ago, and saying how excited I was for us to be associated with Maddison, because both his goals and his assists, his two players rolled into one. And whether we go back from, I would think not. But then we've just gone back for a centre forward and paid 60 million. So you can never say never with Newcastle United. And I would love to see him. I think there's a sadness in Leicester, isn't there? Because we would love to do what Leicester have done. Leicester won the Premier League, they won the Community Shield, and they won the FA Cup. Now, in X number of years, a club like Leicester, who weren't in the Big Six, etc., bucking the trend not once but 3 times, was absolutely wonderful. Yet it seems to have come at a cost. without looking at why and without looking at them closely, because I'm more concerned about Newcastle United, they're suddenly in a situation this summer, they can't buy anybody, in that they're starting to stave off everybody buying their players. Maddison, Fofana to Chelsea, which is now looks as if it's hit the rock bottom, etc., etc. It's like we've got to unload one. Which one is it going to be? Etc., etc., which is a great sadness for them. I'm not too much bothered. I think we will sign a centre midfield player and a winger before September the 1st. I honestly believe that. Now, it may be that because of the cash outlay on our centre forward, although it is staggered payments, it's not huge payments down. They've done a terrific deal on this, by the way. They've done the deal magnificently. Because not only have they got a quality centre forward, but they've managed to stagger the transfer fees,
yes,
and reduce his wages to 120 a week when he was demanding twice as much as that originally. I mean, they've done a terrific job on getting that everything right there. But I've got a feeling that Newcastle will certainly, before next Thursday, will sign at least one player on loan. And that may be the centre midfield player. And if it is, it may well be Gallagher out of Chelsea. They've got this big relationship with Chelsea. They were looking at Hudson-Odoi, who I don't think is going to happen now. They're looking at the American guy, and they're looking at Gallagher. They can only take one of those three on loan, because you can only take one player from one club on loan, and it may be Gallagher. Gallagher may be, not definitely, the centre midfield player. Whoever will be wide is going to be wonderful. But I tell you what, you know what? Sitting here now, knowing you've got that centre forward through the door, and you're going to sign a centre midfield player and a right winger, I'm feeling very comfortable, boys. Very,
yeah.
very
Don't you feel, John, that the whole of football in Europe, that they are looking at Newcastle and saying, "Wow, there are big things happening there."
Absolutely.
They really are going for it, and will be on the up and up and up, and very quickly too. And that's why I think now, all of a sudden, that Newcastle can succeed in the transfer market, that people are willing to listen to what they've got to say and consider it very carefully.
Because, Malcolm, while it is hard to think of us doing better in the transfer market than Kieran Trippier and Bruno has turned out to be, and it'll be if this guy does as well as them, mind, I'll be highly chuffed, because they have been sensational. But this is the statement signing. This is the marquee signing. Yeah. The centre forward, it's 60 million. Excuse me, Newcastle have arrived in the big time. Bruno's been sensational. Trippier's been sensational. They've spent the right few quid on Botman. We've been saying, hey, guys, we're coming. And now we're saying, hey, guys, we've arrived. That's the difference with this signing.
Yeah, and the Pedro deal is still active. This has all been lost in the Isak storyline, but the Pedro deal is still active. Simon Varamond commenting, saying that Sky confirmed the deal is not dead despite signing him. And that's good, because he does play in a different position. And,
yes, he does. And he's desperate to come here. He's desperate to come here.
Another Brazilian.
All Brazilians are desperate to come here now.
They are,
We didn't have one before that fella in the middle of the screen set up with Mundina.
Francisco Nindi, Lima de Silva.
Them.
Yes, exactly. Now that we've got them flocking to be here. Newcastle United travel down to Molineux on Sunday. The kickoff is 2:00. It's live on Sky Sports. All 3,000 away end tickets have sold out, and one of them is mine. Big game again in the Premier League. They're all big games. Peter Banks is refereeing Newcastle United's game once again. And VAR is, it's been switched on a few times as far as Newcastle games have been concerned. It's been monitored by Lee Mason. Obviously, over the next 24 hours, we'll hear a little bit more about who's available for both teams. But Newcastle United versus Wolves, Malcolm, your prediction, please. How do you see the game going?
Well, I think with all that's going on just at the moment with the new signing, and it would be absolutely marvellous if they can get all the paperwork done in time for Isak to be able to play at Wolves, make his debut. Fantastic, and I really do have this very strong feel that what Eddie Howe has put together so far, that having watched last weekend against Manchester City, I was enthralled. I really was absolutely enthralled. Haven't been like that for, good heavens, nearly 25 years about a Newcastle performance. What the players, what I'm sure Eddie Howe will be saying to them each day, all the way through this week, last Sunday wasn't a one-off. That's got to be the standards that we're hitting all of the time. And if Newcastle United can hit near to those standards, the Wolves of this world, woe betide you.
Okay, John, your views on this game at the weekend?
Yeah, intriguing, absolutely intriguing. I mean, for me, Wolves are the current Wolves, almost the poor man's Brighton, in terms of the play in very pretty patterns with some good technicians, but they don't score, and that is Brighton. Brighton are better than them, but Brighton are attractive right up to the edge of the box and don't score. Wolves can do pretty patterns. If you saw their game with Spurs, especially in the first half, pretty, Spurs win 1-0. They're that sort of side. Now, football is often habit forming. And at the moment, Wolves it's becoming a habit with Wolves to lose. At the end of last season, they lost 6 of their last 9, which stopped them going into Europe, which is where they were batting initially. They lost 6 of the last 9. And this season, they've lost 2 out of 3 in the league. So they've lost 8 out of 12 of their last Premier League games. Losing becomes a habit. Now, on top of that, last season, only the 3 relegated teams scored less goals than Wolves. They went down. The 3 relegated teams scored less goals than Wolves. This season, in 3 games, Wolves have scored 1 goal. So they're in a habit of losing, and they're in a habit of not scoring. They look attractive on occasions, but Newcastle got a massive lift against Manchester City. It might have only been a point, but it felt like a win because they played so well. They scored 3 goals against the champions. They were rattled, etc. So it felt like a win. Now, that bubble almost burst straight after the game when we found Callum Wilson had hamstring yet again and was going to be missing yet again. Newcastle didn't allow it to burst. They went straight out and did what they've done in the transfer market for a centre forward. That has got the feel-good factor coming straight back. Will this guy be able to play at Wolves? First of all, will he be signed and registered in time? Because that's got to be Friday for a Sunday game. Then, if he is, will Eddie Howe throw him straight into the starting lineup when with foreign players he hasn't recently? Bruno started on the bench. Botman started on the bench. Another foreign player might start on the bench. I think he will not start on Sunday because he'll not be signed in time, or he'll be put on the bench because we don't want to kill him before he's shook hands with half the team. I would love him to start because of my emotional heart, my Geordie heart, my black and white heart wants to have him centre forward. But we'll wait and see. My forecast, Newcastle win. 1-0 if he doesn't start, 2-0 if he does.
Okay, I'm going 2-0 to Newcastle. Malcolm?
You've nicked my scoreline again.
Again?
Again. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to Newcastle.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, we've all gone 2-0 with my, if he starts. I've gone 1-0 if he doesn't start.
Well, it's nice to see you coming round to our way of thinking, John.
No, well, you were wrong last week, but I think you might be right this week.
I love it. Great show, as always, lads. That hour, it never seems long enough, but fantastic to get the insight of a club legend, Malcolm MacDonald, and a Geordie journo legend in John Gibson. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday, lads. Take care and have a great week. And thanks to everybody in the chat and the sponsors, as always.
And enjoy the game.
Take care. It was worth keeping the faith, wasn't it?